going on, everybody? Welcome back to the DFS Dose YouTube channel. I'm Ben Hauver, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top DFS cash game plays for Week 12 on Draftkings. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, man, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow, helps us reach new viewers. If you ever want to connect with us, we have a free Discord channel. The link to join is in the description below. We also drop 2 podcasts per week. You can find that on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Finally, don't forget to tune into the Saturday night late night live stream. We go live around 11 p.m. Eastern every Saturday night to give our final updated thoughts on the slate. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and without any further ado, let's dive right in to the top cash game plays for Week 12 on Draftkings. One of the main things with this slate that I think is important to understand is that overall, from a Vegas perspective, the scoring expectation is very low. We only have one game with a total above 50. The highest implied team total is below 30. That's the first time that has happened all season. And because of that, I think it's going to be very important to find guaranteed floor where we can. And at the quarterback position, we find that through rushing. So I think that the top 2 options this week for cash games are Jalen Hurts at 7,300 and Cam Newton at 5,600. Not much that you can say bad about Jalen Hurts this week at 7,300. He's the second most expensive quarterback on the slate, but this is a player that can put up 30 DraftKings points without a passing touchdown, as we saw in their game against New Orleans. And if Cam Newton wasn't so cheap, I think Hurts would be a lock. However, Newton only gets a $500 price increase after last week, putting up 26 points on DraftKings, and he looked really good in his first full-time action with the Panthers this season. Had a 77.8 completion percentage through 2 passing touchdowns, also had 10 attempts on the ground. I think the Panthers are going to utilize Cam in that fashion, and with that role, 5,600 is just way too cheap. He had a rushing touchdown, and it wasn't even a goal line touchdown. It was from 24 yards out. So, I mean, Cam Newton, 5,600, way too cheap for his price tag. I think the rushing floor is high. I think he should be able to put up points against Miami in this spot. So, to me, Cam Newton is the preferred option at quarterback for cash games in Week 12. The running back position, I think both backs from the LA Green Bay game are in play. A.J. Dillon especially is projecting extremely well. And we saw last week, even in a negative game script, the Packers were able to get A.J. Dillon involved. They were able to get him a lot of work in the receiving game. I don't think that anybody really expected him to have 6 targets, but he made the best out of it, caught 6 out of 6 targets. 44 yards, put up 15.7 DraftKings points, and that really does feel like his floor this week. They're at home against the Rams. It's another tricky matchup, but Dillon's workload should make him a very fine play at 5,900. And then right below in the same game, Darrell Henderson Jr. feels like we're back to early October where his price tag just does not match the role. It's been a couple of tough weeks for him, 8.8 DraftKings points in week 9, 8.1 last week, but the Rams are coming off of a bye. I think that their offense is going to be successful in this spot, and they've shown a willingness to use Henderson both as a rusher and in the receiving game. I think he's a great play this week at 5,800. The projections don't love Darrell Henderson. I'm a little confused about that. I'm wondering if they will, come around to him a little bit as the week develops and people think things through a little bit more. But man, yeah, I mean, Darrell Henderson to me is one of the first players that stuck out when I looked at this slate. Sub 6K is just not a good price tag for him. So I like both of those backs. And in that same range, I do want to say that James Robinson looks really good. This is a spot where I expect the Jags to bounce back on offense. They're at home. They've lost another pivotal pass catcher in Jamal Agnew, and they're going to have to lean on the running game, and they should find a lot of success against a weak Atlanta run defense. James Robinson is talented. He's going to be utilized both as a rusher and as a pass catcher, and he has a lot of upside in this offense where they're really just only featuring him. They're barely giving Carlos Hyde work anymore. I think Robinson is a good bet to score a touchdown this week, throwing a couple receptions, and at 6,200, he is a phenomenal play in the mid-range. And for spend-up options, we've got the 2 obvious guys on the slate, Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, Taylor is coming off of that monster 56-point game last week, and it's a tough matchup, undoubtedly, at home against the Bucs. But even still, it was a tough matchup last week against the Bills, and that didn't stop him. As my podcasting and YouTube channel co-host Joey always says, Jonathan Taylor, he's just scoring points right now. That's the fact of the matter. He is scoring points, and at 9,100, it's a cheap price tag for a player who can drop 50 in any spot, and he hasn't dropped under 20 since week 3. And he's had tough matchups in that span. So, it seems like Jonathan Taylor is fully matchup proof at this point. He's going to get a couple of catches, and the touchdown upside is just so high, as we've seen. I'm not worried about matchup at all. And then CMC priced below 10K. Once again, at 9K, it is just a price tag that does not match the role that McCaffrey has. He has the best role in fantasy football. And I think between the two, I mean, you're getting $100 savings to go down to CMC. You're getting a better projection. And I think you're just overall having a higher floor. Like I talked about, like floor is very important this week specifically, I think. So between the two, CMC would be my lean for a pay up option. But, just the way that the lineups in general are forming, I think this week is going to be a relatively balanced build. You may not be paying, 9K for a running back this week, or, the high 8Ks, 9Ks for a wide receiver. You might just really be living in that mid-range. So I don't think that either of these guys are must plays this week, but they are great plays. And these are definitely the two guys, Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, that I would be paying up for at the running back position if that was the direction that I wanted to go in. At wide receiver, like I said, same story. It's the mid-range that is absolutely loaded. Deontay Johnson at 6,600 is projecting as clear-cut one of the best plays on the slate, and for good reason. With Big Ben back in the spot, Chase Claypool is dealing with an injury. Eric Ebron is out. Juju obviously out for the year. It's like this is a consolidated target share, and all Deontay Johnson does is get double-digit target games. He has like all but one game this year without double-digit targets, except for the game that he got injured. But almost every single game, he is a lock for 10 plus. It's a favorable spot, 6,600. It's a great price tag. I think if you're looking at basically every wide receiver, 7K and under, he's got the best target projection, and the price is just good. So I like Deontay Johnson for sure at 6,600. A bunch of other guys in the mid-range, sub 6K as well. I think Elijah Moore stands out at 5,600 following his breakout performance. Corey Davis has been hobbled all week. I thought we might get him out, but he did return on a limited basis in Friday's practice. So Elijah Moore, I don't think he's really hurt by Corey Davis being there. I think that regardless, the Jets know at this point that they have to get him more involved in the offense. He's their most explosive skill position player at this point. It's a good matchup against Houston. So I like Elijah Moore. I think he continues to see elevated snaps in this offense. He was up to 80% plus last week for the first time since week 1. And I think that that's going to be the range he sits in for the duration of the season. So Elijah Moore. Then below Elijah Moore, I think there are a couple of more interesting options there. Brandon Ayuk at 5,300 in a plus matchup. He has seen a bounce back, sort of a spike in his usage, back to the role that he had last week where he's an every down player. He's had 7 or more targets in 3 out of the last 4 games. 2 games with about 20 points in the last 3. So I like Brandon Ayuk at home, soft matchup against Minnesota, underpriced for the role that he currently has, still getting docked a little bit, I think, for the slow start on the year. T. Higgins at 5,400. I said it on the podcast, like, I am over this T. Higgins stuff. I play him every single week, and it just always leads to disappointment. Then you look at the projections, and he's projecting as a value once again, and it's like, God, like, what do I do? Do I really know that much better than the numbers? I don't know. It's really hard. Everything about T. Higgins that's made him a good play for the past couple of weeks is still the case, but it's just really hard to trust a guy who's consistently been disappointing for basically every part of the year. So I don't know about T. Higgins. He's definitely in play just from a projection standpoint, but I think I prefer all of the other guys I've mentioned up to this point in Deontay, Elijah Moore, Brandon Ayuk. You could even throw Michael Pittman in that range as well at 5,600, same price as Elijah Moore in what should be a trailing game script against the Bucs in the highest total game of the week. So I like Pittman as well at 5,600. He is less of a play that I like to make on DraftKings because it's not like volume that's going to get him there. It's going to be getting a touchdown, but this is a great spot for Pittman who's been utilized all year. So that's kind of the core of guys that I'm trusting this week, especially in a balanced build. At the top, obviously, Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams. Kupp is 9,600, which I think prices him out of cash games, although he is the safest bet on the slate for 20-plus points in a given week. So I would never be, upset with somebody who goes to Cooper Kupp. I mean, we just saw Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen eat against this Packers secondary. He's a great play at 9,600, but you can save $1,000 and get essentially the same role in Devontae Adams for 8,600. So I think if I'm going to pay up, it's probably Adams, although Kupp I think is a phenomenal GPP play to get leverage, pay up to be contrarian type stuff. So, that's kind of how I'm feeling about those guys. And then the only other 2 guys I want to mention for cash games this week, Laviska Shenault at 4,400. He's very cheap. There's been some coach speak this week about them getting him more involved without Jamal Agnew there. They got to get creative, got to feed Visca some usage. So I like him as the absolute stone punt payoff option. I just don't know if you really even need to go that low this week. And then Chris Godwin is also projecting really well. Mike Evans missed practice for the first 2 days of the week, but he did return on Friday. I think he's good to go. I think that Rob Gronkowski is good to go. So don't get me wrong, it's a good spot for Godwin at 7K, but Gronk's back. Mike Evans is going to be back in this spot. So it's tough, I think, to just, trust where the targets are going to go. They could easily get spread out at any point, but Godwin at 7K is a good bet. I just think that I prefer Deontay Johnson's target share a little bit more for 400 less. So that's kind of the thing that I'm battling between right now. Definitely going to talk about this tomorrow on the Saturday night live stream. Things could change, so make sure you tune into that to get our final thoughts on the best plays at wide receiver for cash games. This week, tight end is kind of a tough position to navigate. There's really no cheap punts that really stand out like that we've had in almost every single week of the season up to this point. So I think that we're going to be looking a little bit more expensive than we usually do. Evan Ingram at 3,800 is interesting. Sterling Shepard is going to be out in this game. Kadarius Toney's doubtful. Caden Smith is out. Saquon Barkley is questionable. It's just like, dude, like they are so beat up on the offensive side of the ball, and Philly is the literal best matchup for tight ends. I said it on the podcast. Like, it's like, I've trusted Evan Ingram so many times. He's been in good spots. There have been injuries to the Giants before, and it's felt like this. It's like, man, Ingram is a smash. He's cheap. He's 3,800. The fact is he's just not that good at football, so it's kind of hard to stomach. Ingram is a guy who's had supposedly all the talent in the world, but he's just never really able to put it together in a consistent way in fantasy. So feels like a big gamble trusting Evan Ingram at 3,800. I think I prefer a couple of guys right above him. Dan Arnold at 4K. Like I mentioned with the Visca stuff, the target share is just consolidating. They've lost DJ Chark. They've lost Jamal Agnew. It's just Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and Dan Arnold. And Arnold has had a better target share than Laviska since he got traded there. So, this guy could realistically lead the Jags in targets this week at 4K. He is probably a preferred option just from a floor perspective versus Evan Ingram. Also, Pat Freiermuth at 4,300 has had a very consistent showing over the past couple of weeks, 7 or more targets in 4 out of the last 5, and in the one that he didn't, he had 6 targets. Now, Eric Ebron is out, which just further consolidates the targets. He's had chemistry with Big Ben. He's had a couple of big games, some medium games, but his floor has been high. It's a decent matchup against Cincinnati. So those are the 3 guys that I'm considering right now. I don't think that one clearly stands above the rest. If salary weren't an option, I would probably rank them, in a descending order from top to bottom, where like Freiermuth's my favorite, Arnold would be my second favorite, and then Evan Ingram. But if that $500 is coming in a clutch in your lineup and you want to go down from Freiermuth to Ingram, I'm always in favor of trying to save your money at tight end. And the spot is good enough for Ingram that I think you can embrace the risk. But it's just really tough. All 3 of these guys are really close in my opinion. And I don't know, man. That's going to be it for me on this edition of the Week 12 Cash Game Pool Top Plays for Cash Games. If you guys have anybody that you think I missed, I would love to hear it in the comment section below. Drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do appreciate everybody who tunes into this video every single week. It means a lot. Always look forward to doing it. And yeah, we'll be back on the Saturday night live stream, so tune into that Saturday evening around 11 p.m. Eastern. Talk to you guys then, and we'll be back with the Week 13 edition of this video on next Friday.